Chris was born in 1969 in Eccles and lost his sight in 2008 at the age of 39. Following a year of rehabilitation to relearn basic skills, he taught himself wood turning, acquiring his initial knowledge by listening to YouTube video tutorials for over 600 hours. He turned his first commission in 2014 and became a full-time self-employed woodturner in 2018. His work and style have evolved, and he's now building a reputation as a craftsperson. He's very active on social media. He's got a YouTube channel to share his experiences and to challenge perceptions of what people with disabilities can achieve, which now has over 8,000 subscribers. He's also a patron of the UK Men's Sheds. He's setting up his own men's shed in his care farm at the moment. I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit about what he's up to later this evening when we get into our conversation. So welcome, Chris. Good evening.
Good evening.
So you've got a busy evening, I believe.
Yes, I'm chairing the autumn-winter season of the local farmers discussion group. So immediately after I've finished hanging out with you guys, I've got to run across the farm with Bamba, my guide dog, and introduce our guest speaker for the evening, which is a former professional footballer who's got a great story to tell and things like that. And we have a nice meal prepared by the owners of the farm, Tony and Sue. So that's quite an interesting night, even by my standards.
Great. So shall we start with some questions then? So Chris, your journey into crafts is quite different from most. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a bit more about how you made the decision to start wood turning after losing your sight suddenly?
Well, the timeline is a bit different from how you introduced me. So it was actually about 4 or 5 years after going blind that I started crafting. And those 4 or 5 years were filled with debilitating, near suicidal mental health problems. But I overcame them with the help of the RNIB's bereavement counselling and talking with doctor and friends. And yeah, about 5 years after going blind, and I was beginning to feel happier mentally, I decided that I would like to have a vampire stake as a Halloween prop. Because I love Halloween, I love scary films, always have done. And I wanted to have some nice props for the kids on the road and the neighbourhood to see when they came trick-or-treating. So I didn't just want to get a stick and whittle the end of it out the garden. I thought I can do better than that because my background was in engineering. So I listened to 600 hours of YouTube videos. Now, my laptop did have screen reading software on, so I was able to navigate it quite well at this point. I'd had training by a social worker and a sensory team worker. So I assimilated all this information, making as many mental images as I could about wood turning. I had never done any wood turning prior to going blind, so it was completely new to me. So after the 600 hours, I bought a wood lathe and some tools and some wood and taught myself just by touch. And about 6 weeks later, after a phenomenal amount of ducking and diving in the workshop as wood flew off the lathe, I ended up with my vampire stake. And that was a great feeling. And that's how I started wood turning for a vampire stake.
It's an amazing story. I think I think a lot of people can relate to that project or idea that gets you into turning, but I've never heard that one before. So you're the first blind person to be assessed and accepted onto the register of professional turners.
Yeah.
How important has this professional recognition been to you and your career as a maker?
Well, of course, it's a great honour, and it's validation for all the hard work, thousands and thousands of hours of hard work and practice to get to that point. It was a very emotional day. I found out that I'd passed the accreditation and I was going to get my diploma and be entered onto the register. It's important in a couple of ways. Of course, it's a great honor. It's validation, like I've just said. And it's an inspiration, a source of inspiration and hope to others that might be going through some traumatic life issues. Not to ever give up. And no matter what life throws at you, you should never give up trying to achieve your ambitions and realize your dreams, and with tenacity and perseverance, support, of course, from family and loved ones, and some other variables, having fun. You can get there. So it was a great honor. And with that accreditation, I then felt comfortable enough to start teaching. And I was beginning to teach both able-bodied and disabled students, partially sighted. And I treat it very, very seriously. With that accreditation comes, in my opinion, and a lot of other registered professional turners, sort of like a duty of care to uphold these traditions that have been in existence since the 12th century under the Worshipful Company of Turners, and hold yourself to a very high standard, a professional standard, and always adhere to the routine and the discipline and the safety, and make sure you've got all the relevant safety kit in your workshop. So it was great. The accreditation itself took about 2.5 hours, and I didn't get any shortcuts because of my blindness. I did the same test that any other woodturner would have done.
I'm glad to hear it. You've talked there a bit about the heritage of turning, and obviously we are heritage crafts, so that's something we're particularly interested in. How important is it that you feel like you're following in the footsteps of those traditional turners, learning from their skills, and then subsequently passing on your skills to the next generation?
It's huge. And again, I'm not old by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not young either. So the ancient art forms of wood turning, blacksmithing, stonemasonry, painting, and a whole other plethora of other art forms and crafts. The the workmanship that the English and UK and the British craftspeople have achieved over the many centuries has been class leading. And that heritage is something I'm proud of, to be part of, playing my part in not only keeping those skills alive but passing them on to the next generation of young wood turners. The UK is quite rightly famous for our historic castles and manor houses and stately homes and churches and cathedrals, and us as craftspeople and artisans still have a part to play in maintaining these beautiful structures for future generations. So I take that very seriously, and I'm very passionate about it, and I always strive to do the best job that I can do and keep practicing, because maybe in one of the slides there'll be a big candle stand that I did for a local church, with the Paschal
yeah, I've
candle.
showed that one, so hopefully
Yeah,
people have seen that.
so to be commissioned to do pieces like that, which end up in the public collection in some way, it's a great honor. So I have to pinch myself sometimes to think, this blind lad from Eccles in Manchester's, having these commissions in really important buildings. It's amazing. Dream come true.
So do you feel that as a professional disabled maker, do you feel you're adequately represented by craft organisations in the sector? Are there things that we could do, like Heritage Crafts could do, to ensure that makers' skills are represented and showcased better?
I think we could certainly do with a lot more exposure. I know we're in a minority, but I do know from having spoken to other people, there are other disabled artists out there. I was lucky to be part of a BBC Two documentary a couple of years ago called Blind Ambition, and it featured some blind singers and blind rappers. But there was me there as a blind woodturner. There was a blind painter artist from America that was included, and a blind photographer. So we're out there, but in my opinion, we do not get the recognition we deserve. So any organisation that can, do a bit more to champion disabled artists and craftspeople, that's a huge step forward for us. Being blind and other people with disabilities, and this isn't a pity party, it's fact. I miss out on a lot of things in life. So it's great to have some support from, organizations that have got a bit of clout and some reach, to take us to that next level. I'm always grateful and very appreciative of any support I get, and I would never belittle anyone to, ask for help when they needed it. So yeah, I think we do need more exposure as disabled artists and artisans, whatever art form or craft, you're doing, whether or not it's professionally or as a hobby. We could do with certainly more exposure. And it's, again, this isn't a derogatory statement, but sports and athletes seem to get all the accolades, especially with the Paralympics, and things like that. They're heralded as, quite right too, with the stories and the journey they've been on. I have nothing but admiration and pride. But there's lots of blind and disabled artists out there that have put in as much hard work to hone their skills, painting, ceramics, whatever, wood turning. Yet we're not trendy. We're not, we're not on the radar as far as recognition goes. So it'd be great. Yeah.
I think we've got a lot more work to do to tell those stories and make sure that that it is highlighted and recognised.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, has much changed since you've been involved in wood turning, and how positive do you feel for the future of crafts in the UK?
Well, I'll answer that question chronologically. So, my life has changed beyond recognition. I've got a great partnership now with some very big names in the world of creating. I have a great partnership and association with Axminster Tools and Machinery. And Nicola and I, 2 weeks ago, were in Norway. I was wood turning at a tool and machinery store in Norway. And they are a partner business of Axminster Tools. And at the end of May, I was in Sweden doing the same, demonstrating at a tool store in Sweden. And I've done, I don't know the exact figure, but easily a couple of hundred demonstrations in the UK, both, at big events, Maker Central at the NEC, and smaller club demonstrations. And yeah, as I said before, you have to pinch yourself. I'm getting to showcase what I do and what I love and get paid for it. I've got to pay the bills just like anybody else. We've got to put fuel in the car and food on the table. So it is a source of income for me with being a professional wood turner. All of my income comes from wood turning and public speaking, and other bits and bobs, like appearing on the BBC show Money for Nothing. I'm the wood turner for that show, and I've had 4 episodes filmed. I've had a documentary done about me by Google, which is an amazing experience. So yeah, my life is this roller coaster of here and there, and it's great because whilst you're in the world of arts and crafts, you're not thinking so much about the bad things that are going out. And I'm sure all of your members and watchers tonight can testify to that. When you're doing what you're doing, doing what you love to do, nothing else matters.
Sure.
It's great therapy, which I'll mention more about with the men's sheds later. But that's absolutely amazing. how my life has changed beyond recognition.
So you've mentioned that you're becoming a bit of a TV craft star. So what what's your opinion on TV craft shows? We definitely have differences of opinion in Heritage Crafts and with our members, and I think we acknowledge that they've got a role to play, but not everyone loves them. How's your experience with that been?
My experience has been one of a lot of fun, and I I do keep my ear to the ground, and I do know that a lot of people, take up arts and crafts just for, getting clicks and becoming famous. I do know that there are a lot of very, very long-serving craftspeople out there and professionals that don't like the attention that these modern influencers get, making something very quick out of some reclaimed materials, uh, and getting, all this exposure and time on a show where they might have been to college and done 30 years of, fine cabinetry. I get that. It's just that, again, the opportunity was presented to me, and again, I thought, what a great way to inspire and bring hope to people. This is always the bottom line. What I do, I want to inspire and bring hope to other people that might not be doing such a great thing in life. And also, just to be devil's advocate, what you must remember is a lot of these people that take up crafting might have other health problems or life issues, and might be their way of coping with life and what life throws at them. So it's a very fine line, and you don't want to be bullying or making someone feel inadequate just because they've been doing crafting for a year or 2 years, and they've got a huge following on Instagram or Twitter or wherever. That might be what's keeping that person alive.
Great
So,
answer.
you have to be very careful with who you're slagging off. Let's use that term, because that person might be hanging around a bit longer because they're making pallet wood furniture with hairpin legs. I think there's space for everybody, and we just have to be aware and cognizant of the fact that, yeah, they might not have been to college and might not have studied under this fine, Italian master, but it's what they want to do and it makes them happy. So I think there's room for everybody. But I understand why people get frustrated when, some newbie gets recognition very quick. I understand that.
Well, you're not a newbie though. We recognise your skills and talents there, absolutely. So that leads us nicely into your work with Men's Shed. So you're the patron of the UK Men's Shed charity.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit more about how this charity is working to improve men's well-being and combat social exclusion?
Yeah, it's a very simple formula, really. It's providing social and creative spaces for not just men but ladies too, to come and get together and through arts and crafts find a way to deal with depression, anxiety, loneliness, bereavement, isolation, and etc., etc. Some members join a men's shed just for the cake and the cup of tea and the friendship. A lot do join because they want to learn a new skill, make friends, and again, when you're in the zone and being creative, if you've got someone at home that's poorly or unwell, or you are dealing with mental health problems yourself, it is such great therapy. I can testify to that 100%. If I didn't have a young son, I'm going to be very open. After I'd gone blind and those 4 or 5 years of being really unwell mentally, if I didn't have a young son and lived on my own, I know I would have ended my life. And I know that now, being an artist and a creator, it is such great medicine. And to be able to offer that to communities. Here we live in a very rural community, the Derbyshire Dales, properties, lots of farms that are spread out. Uh, an idyllic life for a lot of people, but people still struggle with the same problems here. And in some cases, more severe problems and of a different type than anywhere else. There's lots of sheds in towns and cities, but the rural environments really do need them.
Mm.
I have spoken to, as you have, many other creators and artists, not only at Shedfest, but at, other venues all around the country, and to hearing the voice, the difference it's made, not only to themselves, but to their communities. It's heartwarming and inspiring. And we want people to go to the shed, and they could be feeling very low, form a friendship with someone or quite a few people or a group, and then feel they have the confidence to maybe start to confide in these new friends and share the problems. And that's where, well, are you all right? Let's use this example hypothetically. You could say to a friend, are you all right today, Dave? You're a bit quiet. And say, well, actually, I'm struggling with depression again, or it's a year since my wife passed away and I'm not doing too great. And you say, right, well, let's go and put the kettle on. And it's a lot of the members, most of the members aren't clinically trained, but we don't profess to be. But it's just that friend that you can confide in and open, and you just getting rid of what's going on in your mind and in your heart, downloading some of that pent up frustration and sorrow, and it really is just such great medicine. In the Derbyshire Dales here, we are approaching, since Christmas, 10 suicides. Some of them farmers.
Mm.
I was asked to attend the funeral as patron of the men's sheds. The funeral of a young farmer, only 21 years of age, who was suffering from anxiety, couldn't cope anymore, and he hung himself. And his parents found out about the shed we're building here and asked if they could give the donations collected at the service to the shed. And it's a sad way to come to gain some much needed cash, but all we can do is honor Tom's memory the best we can. So when the shed is up and running, we're going to have the Tom Dean Award for maybe the best fundraiser or the best table that's been made or the best wrought iron door handle, whatever. And we are going to have also a posthumous wall for someone that might have benefited from the shed, but has unfortunately ended their life. And we have already got a few members of that posthumous wall. So that's always a great impetus to do what we do and bring some hope and happiness and friendship to people through arts and crafts. And of course, we had the Charter for Wellbeing through Craft and DIY signed off in Parliament. I'm not going to get political, but we did get it signed off a couple of years, so it is recognised in Parliament and at Westminster how important it is, the mental well-being of people, and what great therapy making things is.
Yeah, and there's that thing, isn't there, that sometimes maybe it's easier to talk alongside someone when you're getting on with making something or doing something practical. It's easier sometimes to talk that way than face to face or to a therapist.
Yeah, of course. And what we like to say in men's sheds is you put a group of men shoulder to shoulder and ask them to open up about the feelings, and their arms will be crossed and, oh, I'm fine. They're too macho to be macho. But if you put a broken lawnmower in front of them within 20 minutes, they're saying, oh, could you pass me the 10mm socket? And what's your name again? And where are you from? And, and that's it. It started, that friendship has started all because of a broken lawnmower. Not that you get many broken lawnmowers in men's sheds, it's just an analogy. But it works for me, that analogy anyway. So
Yeah, and you're starting up your own one, I believe, at your own farm.
yeah. It's originally Tony and Sue that own the farm here. Tony wanted to set up a men's shed. His father, who is unwell at the moment and in his 90s, is a maker and a creator and a woodworker and a woodturner himself. And Tony had said, I'd love to have a shed on here, and maybe get my dad on here as his last fling, in his failing health, to maybe just do one more wood turning project. So it was Tony's idea, and he mentioned it to me and Nicola, and we said, well, actually, Chris is the patron of men's sheds, and I said I can certainly start asking around and see if I can get a team going, and we can start the build process. And that's exactly what's happened. So we've got 400 followers on Facebook. We've got a committee. We're set up as a CIC now, registered with UK Men's Sheds. So the build process is underway. I can't give a definitive date as to when we're going to open, but I get multiple calls daily inquiring about it. So we add them to the WhatsApp group for the shed. And if you want to come down and get hands on and help with the build, by all means. Or if you'd rather just hang off until the shed's up and running, of course, you're more than welcome to come and join us.
Well, if you need a shout out from us, let us know. I'm going to ask Imogen now. She's got a great question. Imogen, do you want to ask your question?
Hello, Chris. It's so wonderful to hear you speak on your projects and your work. And I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that awareness about mental health through craft, how craft is medicinal, because that's my experience as well.
Yes.
And I think that's a really rich topic, maybe for a future conversation as well, how practically helpful making things is. So my question, if I can find it, right, so what are your favorite things to turn, and what qualities in the materials and woods do you most enjoy from a sensory process? As a maker, I'm really interested in how other makers feel about their materials.
Yeah, well, I love using wood as a canvas. So initially in my wood turning journey, I kept wood very plain and simple, round and brown as we describe it, hundreds of bowls, but they all felt the same to me. And everybody was saying, oh, that's got a beautiful grain pattern in it, and the figuring is beautiful. And I'm thinking, I can't see it. It just feels round and smooth to me. So having spent some time around some of the world's greatest wood turning artists, I knew that this is where I wanted to head, because it was sensory, carving wood and engraving wood, embellishing wood, it brought the piece to life. It became tactile, and I could feel it and make a mental image. So that's certainly the direction that I started on, and I am still on that direction. Of course, I get many commissions where people just want a 14-inch food safe walnut salad bowl, and you have to follow the brief. But when it's me creating in a fluid way, I love to use wood as a canvas. Now, I love doing pieces that might look a bit archaeological or medieval or Viking. I'm again, that heritage, that history element. I really love that, and I can really go to town. And luckily, because I did have sight till I was 39 years of age, I have a great memory map. So I like to use colour, and of course I can't see that colour going on, but it's that challenge. I have talking labels on all my different coloured wood dyes and stains and embellishings and gilt waxes, so I can find them in the workshop without any help. And with, again, just practice and a very, very gentle touch, I'm able to realize what is going on in my mind, and what the mind can perceive, the body will achieve. And in the early days, I was learning these techniques, and I'd wait till Nicola got home and said, how does that look? How does that look? Do the colours work? And she'd go, oh, actually, yeah, that's pretty good. And, you know, and then friends and family say, wow, that's amazing. And how have you done that? And say, well, you know, a lot of experimentation, a lot of messing around, getting dirty and your fingers covered in all sorts of stuff. I don't really like wearing latex gloves when I'm colouring things because it's just it's a slight fraction less of sensitivity on my fingers. So, you know, I can always clean my hands with a bit of methylated spirit or whatever. But yeah, I love the tactile sensory element, and I love doing historic period heritage work as well. So, well, yeah, I love doing it all, really. It's just so much fun.
It's so interesting. So
Thank you,
Imogen,
Chris.
just
Yeah,
reflect.
that was great. You've given me so much to think about. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Imogen. Thank you.
It's so fascinating, that idea of your mental map and what you remember, and the colours. That's so fascinating. And I heard you talk about using technology as well to help you realise that, because I guess there must be so many useful technologies you can use now to help you to understand those things and navigate them.
Yeah, technology plays an important part. Just, you know, the apps that are available on your smartphone now for the visually impaired and blind are amazing. So I can incorporate that. You know, I have a talking tape measure and a beeping spirit level on my phone. So just with that talking tape measure and a beeping spirit level, I can do general DIY in the house. I can put a shelf up absolutely perfectly plumb and horizontal, and you know, with just a couple of simple gadgets. And I have a pen friend, it's called, developed by the RNIB. You know, so that has all these little uniquely coded labels on all my waxes and embellishments and stains. And of course, you can stick them on CDs and DVDs and food packets and tins in the house. So technology plays an important part. If I drop something, I have magnets all over the place, so I can tap around on the floor and find them. I have an app called Be My Eyes, and that will call one of probably 2 million volunteers now around the world. So in real time, you'll have someone assist you to find something or read something out to you in the workshop. So there's always a way, and you never give up. There's always a way. There's always, and this is another great part of being an artist or someone that's creative and great with your hands. You know, we can be presented with a problem, and I get almost a euphoric sense of achievement when you've had to scratch your head and think about the problem, work the problem through and solve the problem. In my case, it might be a bit different because of having no eyesight. But, you know, we can all, as crafters and makers and creators, you know, come across a problem and you think, oh, flipping heck, how am I going to solve this? And I love that part. I love it. Again, it's just keeps your mind firing and your synapses, and it's part of the process. Working the problem, especially with a new technique.
Amazing. Tahir's got a question. Tahir, do you want to unmute and speak to Chris yourself? You there? You there, Tahir?
Oh. Yes, I am. Sorry.
Oh,
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Good evening. I'm really inspired by all the things that you do, and of course, you know, you're an amazing guy. What's next for you on the agenda? And I do have another question as well, but let's maybe start with that one.
Well, next for me is always obviously being involved with the UK Men's Sheds and spreading the love around that amazing charity. On the immediate horizon, I will be a guest at Haddon Hall. So that's a famous stately home here in Derbyshire near Bakewell. So Nicola and I are going to have a stall there for the Christmas market, and we'll be in attendance over 10 days. So that's going to be, we've visited the Christmas market there numerous times, and it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. But this is the first time that I will be there as a vendor and an artist selling my stuff. So that's very exciting. So I'm going to have to pull out all the stops and be working every minute that I can muster to get lots and lots of cool and amazing things to sell. I want to carry on doing more public speaking, centered around being a blind artist and woodturner. And again, you know, that's a great way to inspire and bring a message of hope to people that might not have yet dipped their toe into the world of art, you know, or they might have done it years ago, and I can, you know, rekindle that spark. That's always a cool thing. And you know, people have said to me, you know, I used to love painting, or I did a lot of ceramics when I was younger, but work and family life got in the way. But you know what? If you can do it, I can do it. And they go off, and I'll get a message and say, you know what? I've started painting again, or you know, I've just bought another potter's wheel, and you know, that's great. So yeah, there's a few things that I will always do, but at this exact moment in time to hear Haddon Hall.
Amazing. That's wonderful. By the way, you know, we're all doing things in our own ways, but I think the fact that you're really sort of pushing things in your own ways and really doing it so well, I think it's such an inspiration. And what I mainly noticed, and you know, some of the things that actually you mentioned brought me to the next question, which is actually, I noticed that the conservation industry or heritage industry is actually really on the brink of, you know, potentially becoming a bit more of a mainstream thing, and you know, a lot more interest is really building up towards it. And that, anyway, that's the feeling I have about it, and I'm really hoping that is true. So do you think that in the near future there'll be potentially more spaces, whether it is on TV or other mainstream areas, where actually heritage crafts and trades and skills and arts will become actually a bit more of the, not the next hipster thing, but the next thing that would actually, you know, bring more people to, well, the next thing that people will pay attention to a bit more of, I suspect.
Yeah. It's a great question. I agree with your sentiments. Having spoken to the guys at Axminster, they are doing great business. People are buying tools and machinery, you know, a lot more than they used to. And in part, it could be because of the TV, you know, craft maker show and things like that. I think I would love in future for us to get, you know, a lot more apprenticeships going around, you know, these heritage crafts, wood carving, wood turning, stonemasonry, leatherwork, etc. These crafts that go back millennia. And maybe in the UK we can follow a similar model that they have in in America with the trade schools. Not every child is academic. Yeah, you know, they're pushed through to 18 years of age, having to do physics and chemistry and this, that, and the other. And you know, for a lot of kids, that is not what they want to do. In America, if kids aren't very academic, but they love building motorcycle engines, or they're great with a MIG welder and things like that, they're pulled out of mainstream school, put in the trade school, and those early sparks of genius that they show in arts and crafts, they're nourished and nurtured.
Absolutely.
You know, I desperately would love for us to get back to a serious effort of apprenticeships here in the UK. I know we have still some great engineering apprenticeships, but these heritage crafts.
Yeah, absolutely. That leads me on to one of my other questions, which was, do you have any words of advice for young disabled people, or any young people really, who want to get involved with crafts?
I would say emphatically go for it. You know, like I said before, we miss out on so much, especially if you have a traumatic, life-changing disability. Go for it. you know, find a local group or club, and nothing's handed to you in life. You have to put the hours in, and you know, disabled or not, you know, be the best that you can be. And you know, it can take many, many years, if not a lifetime, to ever truly master, you know, an art form or a craft. And in fact, I would say, who would ever want to master something? Because we want to be learning something new every day. There's a great quote from a Japanese classical musician who's nearly 100 and still playing the cello. And they say to him, why do you still play the cello at 100 years of age? And he says, I've not mastered it yet. So there's that, and there's another Japanese quote that says, the road to a master means you have to learn, break away, then transcend. So, you know, all these new artists and crafters that are coming through, disabled or not, go for it. You know, feel the passion awaken inside you, and the amount of love it can bring you, the community, the friendship. You know, even if you're going into your local art supplies or your local timber merchant, you know, you're going to form a friendship with the guy behind the counter. You know, join a forum or a group, you know, and get as much support and help and advice as you can. Associate yourself with people that are disciplined and very professional. Again, sort of stepping back to the discussion over, you know, one-hit wonders and things like that. You know, try to associate and surround yourself with people that you consider true experts. That's going to push you forward all the time. It's going to inspire you to be better. If you're always just treading water around in the hobbyist group, yet you aspire to be a master professional, you know, you live what you learn. If you want to become a world-class artist, you know, sort of, if you can, orbit the right circles, and they really will give you some great advice and bring you on. Of course, we all love listening to YouTube videos, and you know, they can be entertaining and they can be laugh, but you know, you can listen to a lot of people on YouTube too that give some very bad, dangerous advice. You know, so especially working with powerful machinery and tools and sharp tools, you know, make sure if you are going to be spending 4 hours a day listening to YouTube creators, make sure that these people know what they're on about, at least from a safety standpoint. But yeah, surround yourself with people that have attained a very high standard, and it will really take you to the next level.
Is there more that you think organisations like Heritage Crafts can do to facilitate that? More formal and informal networking, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, networking's great, formal and informal. You know, if I don't know if Heritage Crafts does do networking events, you know, whether or not they're online or, you know, local groups rent the village hall, but yeah, it's great to talk and share ideas. And you know, you could be having a conversation, you could be stuck on a certain skill or technique in your particular field, and you know, you could have a eureka moment. So I think Heritage Crafts being associated with highly skilled, beautiful disciplines, art forms and craft forms, you know, you certainly can be making sure that people have access, you know, both online and in person to, you know, great information and knowledge. You know, for me, I can't just pick a book up and read it anymore. You know, so for me, it's online content, and my computer on my phone can read it out. You know, there's, as far as I'm aware, you know, there's not a lot of arts and crafts, but there's lots of books out on cabinetry and blacksmithing and wood turning, but none of them are on audiobook, as far as I'm aware, which is a bit of a shame. So I
But
think
these are interesting things for us to know about, aren't they? And things that we can think
accessibility,
about. Yeah.
making things accessible, and maybe, the thinking about if we are talking about people with disabilities, sharing, adaptations that people have come up with. Let's say you're an artist, but you've got physical limitations, or you might want to become an artist because, you've always been fascinated by it, but you've got the motor issues associated with cerebral palsy. I'm saying that because one of my wood turning students has got cerebral palsy, and he's an amazing wood turner. He's one of these kids that the doctor said he'd never walk, and he did. He'd never pass an exam, and he did. He ended up finishing school as head boy. He skis, he travels the world. When he's wood turning, Nicholas says his face shield is literally a centimetre from the work spinning, but he never hits it. And he has the slurred speech, and the sort of like the cramped and twisted arms as he's holding his tools. But oh my lord, to listen to him, it's so amazing. So, and so he works a certain way. I have to work a certain way, and start, stop, feel, start, stop, feel. So yeah, maybe forums where people can share hints and tips. And again, I've had a problem. I've solved that problem. Here's a doodad that I made. It might help me support my arms whilst I'm painting. If they've got MS or something. And a lot of these adaptations can be extrapolated and used by people without a disability. It can just help things like fatigue, or various different things.
I think it's always really important that when we improve accessibility, we actually improve accessibility for everybody, don't we?
Exactly, it's a two-way street. So some of the adaptations I've used and had made for me, people that have no physical or visual disabilities go, wow, that's great, I'm going to have one of them anyway. Something I invented called the speed sizer, which I invented for me, being visually impaired, to help me put a mortise or a tenon on the bottom of a bowl blank. That was such a great idea that Axminster now produce and sell that from
great. That's an amazing story.
Because they're about £22, folks. Great Christmas gift. We get 80 pence for everyone sold.
I was going to say, does some money go to Mend the Shed every time? I hope so. I'm conscious, Chris, that we're coming towards 8 o'clock, and I know you do have to shoot off to do your next event, as you're a very busy person. Does anyone have a final question? Piers, did you have a question?
I do. So I'll try to sneak in, even though I feel like staff always, it's a cheeky thing to be able to ask a question. So I'm excited. Mary was talking a little bit in the beginning about how you have this wonderful YouTube channel with a great following. And then you were sharing about how you've demonstrated in so many places, both domestically and internationally. I'm curious about the two different communities, in terms of, you've got a digital community you're demonstrating, I'm assuming, with that, there is that digital disconnect, but they're a reoccurring group. But then you've got this in-person demonstrating community, but they're more one-off experiences. At least that's my assumption. I'd be curious how those two feel. What's the balance, or any memorable kind of experiences with those two interactions?
Yes, the in-person demonstrations where you attend a club or at a big show, or like we've just been to Norway, they're great. You're on stage, you're performing. Not only are you trying to do a great exhibition and a project and a piece of art, but you're telling your story. I love that energy and that buzz, and you have that banter, that to and fro with your audience in real time. YouTube is a great way to spread that globally, instantly. And again, the bad thing about YouTube is the people that can be nasty. So I have encountered that, you know, call them trolls, keyboard warriors, whatever you want to do. You know, I have had people be quite vicious, you know, and there's no way a blind guy can do that. He's putting it on, you know, he's fake and things like that. And you just have to say, well, it's like Nicola says, you know, they're only seeing me on that video. They do not know that 14-year journey that has preceded to get me to where I am. They see you there and go, there's no way a blind guy can do that. I say, and I mean it, I don't want my eyesight back. And it's a moot point because my condition is irreversible and incurable. But even if it was, I don't want my eyesight back. Who I am now has been defined by my disability, and I wouldn't be a woodturner if I was sighted. So it has changed my life for the good. But I do love that personal interaction, that exact moment, that slice of time that will never be replicated ever again. And for people to come up at the end of the event and shake your hand and take a photograph of your work and take a photograph with you, and that one-to-one intimacy is electric. Obviously, digital media is great and it has its place, but I just wish some more people would be a lot more forgiving and, you know, try to walk in your shoes for a couple of minutes.
Thank you. I'm so sorry to just hear about I mean, yeah, internet is, you know, a tricky place, but I'm quite shocked, to be honest, and I'm sad to hear that. But
no, well, it says more about them than me. And I say to people, and even, you know, the very rare occasion I've had people be quite snarky is the word that I'm going to use at live events, and you know, they said, no way can you do that, you know, if you're blind. And I've got a guide dog, and you can't just walk into a guide dog center and ask for $60,000 worth of seeing eye dog unless you prove it, you know. So, you know, I say, well, there's the guide dog. You don't just get them by walking down the high street. So yeah, oh well, it's something else we've got to work on, but good question.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chris. I've just popped a link to when we have got another event coming up with Men's Sheds next week, I believe, in partnership with Creative Lives. So I've just popped that link in the chat if anyone's interested in coming along to that. I know you have to run next door to introduce another speaker on your farm. So I'll say thank you. I'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. It was inspirational. I've learned such a lot. I don't think this is the last conversation we will have. I hope you will be able to advise us and join us again at some point to continue to inspire more people.
Well, thank you very much for asking me to spend some time with you. And to everyone listening and watching, continue to pursue your creative and artistic ambitions. And I'll just finish by saying, keep on turning, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. There's some lovely comments coming up in the chat here from Vancouver and the States. So yeah, lovely to see you. And good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.